We were supposed to have Governor Kristi Noem on the show tonight, but she canceled. Her staff blamed bad weather. We go to some locals for reaction. But who knows why she canceled, right? When we asked her how her week had been going, she replied, rough. Maybe it was the bad weather. I heard it was raining cats and dogs. I tried to convince Noem to stay and do our show, and I even told her that my dog Gus had all his shots. She replied, not yet, he hasn't. Yeah, she just shoot a dog. She screwed the pooch. Of course, Noem faces controversy over stories from her new book. CBS News claims Noem is now in the doghouse with MAGA. But lucky for her, we now know there's plenty of room.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah. See, the dog's dead, and the house is roomier. It's funny.
It's like OJ, but we know who the killer is.
Yes, exactly. Karine Jean-Pierre blasted Noem for suggesting Joe Biden's dog Commander also be put down. It was a good strategy by Noem, trying to get other people to shoot dogs to blend in. Yeah. She's also accused of making up a story of meeting Kim Jong-un. According to sources, Kim Jong-un was upset they didn't meet since he'd already prepared one of his country's signature dishes. Now there's speculation that Noem has ended her chances as Trump's potential VP. But some say she's boosted her chances for another position in government.
Wow.
Critics add that Noem has been criticized over using the dog story to sell books. Not true, she said. You know, you could have done the show. Could have done the show. We're nice people. Everybody here teases everybody else. We have a good time. You probably would have come off looking a lot better than you do now because we would have had fun, but instead you chose to run. Boo. All right, on to other news. Famous obese liberal Michael Moore is strongly encouraging students to take over more campus buildings, asking that they start with the cafeterias first. Kevin Spacey, the actor, said he's endorsing presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Said Spacey, you had me at Junior. Spacey called RFK a formidable fighter for justice, also adding that he has an incredible ass.
Wow. Wow.
Joe Biden is witnessing a 28% decline in black support. The president claims that number is actually zero since he says they are no longer black. Stormy Daniels took the stand today in the Trump hush money trial, though her testimony was marred when she kept deep-throating the microphone. To swear her in, the bailiff placed her right hand on an old copy of Hustler. Are there any new copies? I don't know. And finally, zoo goers in China were shocked to find out that the pandas on display were actually dogs dyed to look like pandas. Upset customers immediately contacted someone to rectify the situation. All right. Let's do a monologue. You guys are great. So yesterday, Politico ran a piece mourning the death of swagger in journalism. The writer, Jack Schaefer, laments that wounded and limping, doubting its own future, American journalism seems to be losing a quality that carried it through a century and a half of trials. It's swagger. Wounded and limping. Sounds like they're describing one of Kristi Noem's dogs. doesn't end yet! But earth to legacy media, you can stop crying now, it's over, and you lost bigly. You're less trusted than week-old tuna salad. Schaefer's point is that journalism has become too timid, but his real purpose seems to be a call to action for his fellow reporters to get tougher. Sorry, Brian Stelter can't even do a girl push-up. Now, Schaefer goes on to claim that there are a few approved journalists out there with swagger, but apparently his definition of swagger is writers who despise half the country because, of course, they're all either left or far left. The article is a bit like listening to your grandfather reminisce about the crazy days of his youth while walking around the old age home with the back of his hospital gown open. Or if we're talking Biden, the front. But the article cluelessly proves its own point. If Schaefer, a longtime media type around New York and D.C., set out to mourn the death of traditional journalism, he just wrote its epitaph. And on that gravestone, of course, would be a story about Russiagate. What traditional media miss today isn't swagger. Like Joe Biden's bowels, it's control. Strangely, all of the swaggering types that Schaefer cites from the good old days are the characters who would be drummed out of the first newsroom they applied to by people like Jack Schaefer. I'm talking about the hard-drinking, hard-charging, grizzled white dudes who are often abrasive, obnoxious, and politically incorrect. Think Lee Marvin, but with a typewriter. The kind of dinosaurs that founded the country but are now the world's designated Bond villain. If Ben Franklin were alive today, he'd be sitting in HR, lectured by a non-binary Karen because no women signed the Declaration of Independence. But what Schaefer's mad about is that the media are no longer seen as heroes. He writes, quote, "Thanks in part to a fall in status, as well as ever irrational attacks from politicians like Trump, today's journalists routinely experience ridicule and harassment at public events like rallies and demonstrations. True, they're like kill meat in high school." So let's get this straight. You sold it, poor Brian, she says. You sold us a years-long lie on Russian collusion. You tried to convince us that a laptop that was obviously genuine was fake. You're cheerleading the bogus lawfare against the leading presidential candidate. Now you're crying because Trump doesn't like you? Because the rest of us no longer genuflect? You're lucky we don't lock up your entire profession on a RICO charge. But Jack does have a point that today's mainstreamers are cowards. Here's former CNN reporter Michelle Kaczynski writing on X about a dinner she recently attended in Florida, which she claims still haunts her. Quote, "All were well-educated and successful in careers. They seemed great on the surface for like an hour, but slowly over a few drinks, they began to let their true MAGA natures slip." Wait, were they polite? Did they pay the bill? Did they not burn down a police station? What gave them away? I bet someone called bull on our legacy media elitist conformity. Perhaps it was a little MAGA swagger, no? See, it's not about swagger at all. It's that someone has more swagger than them. Trump isn't living in the legacy media's heads. He's the landlord who keeps raising the rent. He's like a squatter the owners can't get rid of because he changed the locks. So the main thing Schaefer misses is that the direction of this doomed called journalism originated from the mentality of the grad schools and the groupthink that he coddled. The Schaefers of the world really want to see how their profession degraded. Look no further than the machine that churned out these clones. But Jack can't say that because he's one of them, which makes him a bystander to the decline. You're not some whistleblower here, Jack. You're just another cog in the machine. Then there's this little tell regarding what's really on this guy's mind. At the end, he adds, "No, Fox News does not swagger." Sorry, have you seen Trace Gallagher? Huh? He's like James Dean mixed with a Dodge Charger. But Jack felt compelled to add that part because he knew that that would be the reaction, that there is swagger, but it's coming from all the places he and his buddies hate. So move over, Donald. You got company in their heads. In fact, there's plenty of us swaggering around in their tiny brains. Lucky for you, Jack, I don't take up much space. Let's welcome She can do a swan dive into a bird bath. Host of America's Newsroom and co-host of The Five, and she never shot a dog, Dana Perino. He never says, make yourself at home, because that's not his dumpster. TheLoftusParty.com, Michael Loftus. She often gets cranky when stalked by your cousin Frankie. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Kat Tiff. And Old Faithful is his bidet. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, former NWA world champion Tyrus. Dana, thank you for stepping in at the last moment. We will be doing Kristi Noem's book segment later without Kristi Noem, which is going to be amazing. Dana, what do you think about using the word swagger? You've been around the media for years. Do you think they lost their swagger?
I was thinking back to the movie Watergate.
Yes.
Okay, and that's like where you would have the newsroom and all the action was in the newsroom.
All the president's men.
All the president's men, yes. And also, a newsroom was a place that was like cool and fast, and everybody smoking cigarettes and slamming down the phone, and they were going after the story, and it was cool to be there. And now, if you think about that NPR story from just a few weeks ago, where one of the journalists, longtime editor there, sends in a note and says, did you notice that 89% of the people that work here are registered Democrats? Mm-hmm. And NPR says, how dare you? But I actually think if you were to do that at all the newsrooms now, that's what you would get.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for the decline, is that diversity used to be a strength. It's not just diversity of ethnicity, it's diversity of thought, and they don't have it. And they hired too many elitist kids from journalism who watch those movies thinking that's what it would be like, but instead they're just trying to advance a progressive agenda, therefore they have no money. And now there was another story today that said Biden's in big trouble because a lot of the left-wing news outlets don't know how to run a business, so they're running out of money as well.
Exactly. Their idea of running a business is looking on the internet for a story that was already written and then rejumbling the sentences and then printing it as their own story. You know, Michael, as a homeless lesbian, by the way, it's amazing how you got that facial hair to grow.
Thanks. Day 4 of the treatment. I'm just in America's dumpster waiting for another girl who wants a corn dog.
I don't know what that means, but I seem to like it. What do you think of, do you think that what Dana's talking about might have been a myth to begin with, the idea of this swaggering newsroom? Maybe it was always this, I don't know, arrogant.
It's been horrible, but now it's just being revealed. That's the glorious thing as legacy media goes down. Like I looked at this article today, and he's like, journalism is missing something, the thing that got us through for the past century and a half. And then he's like, swagger. You're like, nope, you missed it. The truth.
Yeah.
The truth is what we need. Legacy media now is that fat chick at the bar. You know, when you want to talk to her attractive friend who was the truth.
Right.
You want to talk to the truth. Here comes legacy media going, you know, Trump was in Russia. He's collusion with Russia. She doesn't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the truth over there. You know, that laptop of Hunter's, that wasn't real. That wasn't real. Okay, I don't want to talk to you. You know, COVID, that came from a wet mark. That was a bat soup thing. You're like, could someone just get the fat chick out of here? And now that's what's happening with legacy media. And you're finally being able to go on the internet and get to the truth all by itself.
That is the most unusual analogy I've ever heard.
But
you know what's interesting about Michael? What's interesting about Michael, when he says fat, he means P-H-A-T.
Okay, first of all, that's cultural appropriation. Hell no. That's pretty hot and tempting. That's ours. It's locked up. Cannot be trademarked or used to bail you out of a tough situation.
You can't keep fat.
Yes.
What do you think, Tyrus? I love how he diagnoses everything but the real problem, which is the takeover of the media.
Well, listen, this kills me because apparently you wrote a piece and it was pretty good, so much so that I quoted it. If we could have it up there on the screen for a moment while I whip these out. And something you wrote, and I don't know if you did it on purpose or not, but, quote, when it comes down to it, why don't people like us anymore? They never did like you. You're the media. No one's supposed to like you. You're supposed to be the one who's just the facts and the truth. And those movies, nobody liked Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman because they were going to get the truth. Not your version. That's why they interviewed so many sources. And then they would come to the editor and he's like, you don't have enough sources. This story sits until you can figure it out. But I want to get it out by 5 o'clock. Then you need to bring me more sources. And lo and behold, their hard work and apparently 12 boxes of Marlboros, they found a way to get the source. Because being a journalist is hard work. And when you start doing it for likes and clicks, because even her little dinner was just like, apparently she's feeling lonely, so she needed other elitists to rally around her. And you are so brave for sitting through 3 courses a meal with highly educated people who don't want to talk about how they voted. So proud of you. That's literally what she did.
Yeah.
You know, and she didn't want to pay. And then, and they didn't want to get in debate with me. Why? You're unemployed because you couldn't do that. You're actually the perfect person to have a debate with. You're a fired journalist who doesn't get it. So again, it just goes back to the whole thing. The idea of being liked and getting your story from X opposed to going out and doing the work, that's the problem. They want to be liked. They want to be famous. They want to interrupt the crowd. Instead of interviewing the Trump rally, they want to make fun of the lighting, or they want to say, oh, there's really not that many people here, instead of just telling the story.
Yeah. Kat, I believe that you always have swagger. I think you have swagger. And I think if Jack Schaefer actually watched this show, he would have to make a correction on his show.
Thank you.
She's in shock.
I know. I am in shock.
Like, there's a joke here somewhere.
I know. I was waiting for you to say, but.
But no. And you also didn't shoot a dog.
Okay. See, I'm not a. That's true. And I'm not a journalist either. But if I were, I would be chasing the very huge story that must be that bad weather.
Yes.
That's gonna cause she has to miss this show. It's so bad. There must be some real bad weather. I'm sorry. The whole reason she told the dog story, she says, is to show that she's a leader and she can stand up and handle problems. Okay, then why did you run from this show?
Yes.
Because in order to be a leader, you also need to be able to solve the kind of problems that you can't shoot.
Yes.
Well, hold on.
There are so few problems in the world where the solution is just a cold-blooded assassination.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what else? She claimed in the North Korea thing that, like, I'm used to dealing with, like, little tyrants because I was a pastor. And it's like, but you ran from this little tyrant.
From this one, I was like...
Yeah. It's like, so I'm beginning to think she really didn't meet Kim Jong-un.
And, and it just also the lack of that...
She didn't meet Greg Gutfeld either.
Yeah.
That former journalist, that tweet... She was shocked there were Republicans in Florida. But you think you're the most educated at the table? Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Cowboys in Texas.
There's Cowboys in Texas? What's going on? Surfers in California.
All right, we must move on. Up next, will the judge drop the hammer and throw Trump in the slammer?
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.